the ultimate guide to growing beans in Florida from pole beans to edamame. Welcome back, backyard growers and green thumbs, to another deep dive into cultivating your own thriving paradise right here in the Sunshine State. If you have ever looked at your garden plot and wondered how to maximize your food production, clear out your grocery bill, and bring truly fresh, vibrant flavors straight to your family dinner table, you are in the exact right place today. Florida offers a unique, beautiful, and sometimes challenging climate for gardeners, but there is one absolute superstar of the vegetable world that thrives exceptionally well in our sandy soils and warm sun: the humble yet incredibly diverse bean. In this ultimate video guide, we are pulling back the curtain on everything you need to know about growing both climbing pole beans and compact bush beans, while exploring exotic varieties like winged beans, sweet edamame, and jaw-dropping yard-long beans that will make your garden the envy of the neighborhood. We will walk you step by step through the historical companion planting methods, precise spacing rules, essential watering schedules, and the best harvesting techniques to guarantee a massive, continuous yield season after season. Grab your garden gloves, secure your trellises, and let us dig into the wonderful high-yielding world of Florida-friendly bean gardening. Climbers like pole beans, wing beans, and long beans are among the absolute most popular and rewarding plants you can introduce into your Florida vegetable garden. One of the greatest attributes of these remarkable climbing varieties is that they are incredibly easy to grow, showing a unique resilience that allows them to produce heavily even when planted in poor, nutrient-depleted sandy soils. And as their name clearly implies, these vigorous beans absolutely love to climb toward the sky, sending out eager tendrils that look for any support they can wrap around. This characteristic gives you incredible flexibility as a gardener, allowing you to carefully trellis the long vines inside your traditional vegetable beds or purposefully plant them right along an existing fence line. By doing this, you instantly create an incredibly attractive, lush, and highly functional foodscape that transforms bare structures into living walls of fresh food. For anyone looking to blend aesthetics with high-utility agriculture, climbing beans serve as the perfect tool to elevate your outdoor space. Because these varieties naturally grow vertically rather than spreading out flat across the dirt, pole bean yields per square foot are significantly higher than traditional bush bean varieties, which are called bush beans simply because they grow entirely unsupported. If you look at the raw numbers, the spatial efficiency of climbing beans is truly mind-blowing and makes them a must-have for small spaces. For example, a modest 10-foot row of well-tended pole beans can easily produce an incredible 8 pounds of fresh, crisp beans in a single growing season. In stark contrast, the estimated yield for standard bush beans grown in that exact same 10-foot space is only about 4.5 pounds. This means by choosing vertical climbers, you are nearly doubling your total food production without taking up a single extra inch of horizontal ground space. If your backyard area is tight, or if you are working with small raised beds, pole beans are undeniably the perfect choice for your garden setup. When you begin planning your garden layout, you will quickly find that there are dozens of different species and unique cultivars of pole beans available on the market today. To save time and prevent unnecessary frustration, experienced local growers have identified legendary varieties like McCaslan, Kentucky Wonder, Rattlesnake, and Blue Lake as some of the absolute best, most reliable choices for Florida gardens. These specific varieties have proven themselves over decades to handle our intense weather patterns and continuous sunshine while maintaining excellent flavor and texture. However, if you happen to wander off this list and choose an alternative pole bean variety from a specialty seed catalog, there is one non-negotiable rule you must follow: always look for options that are explicitly labeled as rust-resistant. Rust is a devastating fungal disease that thrives aggressively in Florida's notoriously hot, humid climate, and choosing a resistant variety is your best defense for keeping your plants healthy and productive. Beyond your standard garden pole beans, the world of climbing legumes offers an exciting array of exotic species that can bring unique textures, flavors, and visual wonder to your landscape. This includes fascinating options like long beans and yard-long beans, which belong to the Vigna unguiculata subspecies sesquipedalis, as well as highly nutritious winged beans, scientifically known as Sophocarpus tetragonolobus. You can even experiment with certain climbing varieties of the robust broad bean or Vicia faba to add diversity to your seasonal crops. Furthermore, varieties like the scarlet runner bean, known as Physolus coccineus, and the striking hyacinth bean, or Lablab purpureus, are both so extraordinarily beautiful with their vibrant blossoms that many homeowners plant them strictly as ornamental features. While the seeds of these specialty climbing species are admittedly less commonly sold in standard big box stores, many passionate Florida gardeners agree that they are well worth the extra online search. Deciding exactly when to plant your pole beans in the ground will depend heavily on your specific geographic location within the state, whether you are in North, Central, or South Florida. In our subtropical environment, beans are strictly classified as a warm season crop, meaning they love the heat but cannot tolerate frost, allowing them to be successfully planted and harvested twice every single year. Because bean plants naturally develop highly delicate, weak root systems, it is imperative that you sow your pole bean seeds directly into your garden soil rather than starting them in small plastic pots. Attempting to transplant young bean seedlings later on is highly risky and could permanently damage or shock their fragile roots, severely stunting their future growth. For this exact same reason, you must always install your heavy trellis or permanent support structure before you ever place a single seed into the dirt, ensuring you won't disrupt the ground later. When constructing your vertical supports, don't be afraid to break away from standard store-bought designs and get truly creative, as artistic trellises add immense character and structural beauty to any vegetable garden. Historically, since ancient times, one of the cleverest and completely natural support structures used for climbing beans has been the living stalks of tall corn plants. This brilliant agricultural method relies on planting beans, corn, and squash together in a system famously known as the Three Sisters, which is a winning combination discovered by Mesoamerican peoples thousands of years ago. In this perfect ecological partnership, the sturdy corn stalks grow tall to provide a natural trellis for the beans, while the climbing beans fix essential nitrogen into the earth to naturally fertilize the soil. Simultaneously, the massive, wide leaves of the low-growing squash plants spread across the ground to form a living mulch, providing weed-suppressing shade that locks in soil moisture. If you would like to mix a little ancient history into your backyard layout, why not give the Three Sisters a try using our local Florida-friendly varieties? However you ultimately decide to organize and plant them, you need to ensure you sow your pole bean seeds deep enough to protect them, aiming for about 1 inch down into the soil. Space individual seeds roughly 3 to 5 inches apart along your row or trellis to give each plant adequate breathing room to grow without choking out its neighbor. If you are blessed with an abundance of backyard space and decide to plant multiple parallel rows of climbers, make sure to space those rows at least 36 inches apart. This wide gap ensures you can easily walk between the rows to harvest your crop and allows for optimal air circulation, which helps dry the leaves and prevents fungal outbreaks. For other unique climbing bean varieties outside of standard pole beans, always make sure to carefully follow the specific spacing and depth directions provided by the specialty seed grower. As is the case with all newly planted crops in the Sunshine State, proper irrigation is critically important to the survival and long-term success of your climbing beans. You must work to keep the surrounding soil consistently and evenly moist from the moment you plant until the exact day your seeds successfully sprout through the surface. Once your young plants have emerged and developed their first complete set of true leaves, you can transition your routine to water deeply whenever you notice the top layer of soil has dried out. Always remember that because these plants possess exceptionally weak and shallow root systems, you must be especially careful not to disturb the soil deeply whenever you are weeding around the base. Accidentally slicing or pulling at those fragile roots while removing nuisance weeds can quickly devastate your plants, so gentle hand pulling or shallow cultivation is always the safest route. Pole beans will grow remarkably well in traditional open garden plots, raised beds, and even in large containers on your patio. You just need to make sure they are placed in a prime location. This means choosing a spot where the plants will receive at least 6 to 8 hours of direct, unfiltered full sun every single day to power their rapid growth. When it comes to feeding your crops, you should fertilize your pole beans at exactly half the rate typically used for other standard garden vegetables. It is vital to actively avoid applying excessive amounts of nitrogen-heavy fertilizers to your beans, because too much nitrogen causes a major hormonal imbalance in the plant. This imbalance will cause the vine to aggressively increase its green foliage and produce beautiful, massive leaves, but it will significantly decrease your actual bean yields, leaving you with empty vines. If you follow these steps diligently, your pole beans should be perfectly ready for their first harvest after about 50 to 70 days from the time of sowing. Other exotic varieties of climbing beans may take a little more or a little less time to fully mature, depending on the specific species you chose to plant. Depending on the exact variety you have running up your trellis, climbing beans can be harvested green for immediate kitchen use or left to mature completely until they are completely dry. If you are specifically interested in harvesting fresh green beans, which are also widely known as snap beans, make sure to pick them as soon as they are big enough to comfortably eat. A great rule of thumb is to harvest these mature green beans regularly, as picking them continuously signals the plant to keep producing new blossoms and pods. If you prefer to harvest dry storage beans instead, you can simply leave the pods to dry out naturally right on the living plant, or pull the whole vines off to dry safely indoors once you see the leaves turn yellow. As the drying process progresses, the seed pods will naturally start to split open on their own, allowing the hardened inner seeds to be easily popped out and stored in airtight jars. Shifting our focus downward, standard bush or snap beans are another incredibly popular and effortless plant choice for the Florida vegetable garden. Just like their tall cousins, bush beans are incredibly easy to grow even in poor soil, but as the name implies, they grow on a compact, self-supporting bush that stands completely on its own. Bush beans give you great flexibility, as they can be grown either as snap beans, formerly called string beans because of their fibrous pods, or as dense, protein-packed shell beans. When selecting bush beans, great snap varieties for Florida include Bush Blue Lake, Contender, Roma II, Provider, and the beautiful yellow Cherokee Wax. If you are more interested in growing rich shell beans for soups and storage, you should try the horticultural Pinto, red kidney, black bean, or navy varieties. Always use seeds for growing bush beans, as just as pole beans, their root systems are delicate and transplants do not do well in our climate. Seeds should be sown 1 to 2 inches deep into the soil, keeping about 2 to 3 inches between each individual plant along the row. Make sure to space your parallel rows 18 to 30 inches apart, and never soak your seeds before planting, as too much moisture will cause them to crack and germinate poorly. Deciding exactly when to plant your bush beans will vary greatly based on your specific location, so it is highly recommended to consult the official Florida Vegetable Gardening Guide for exact dates. Keep the soil consistently moist until your seeds sprout, and then transition to watering only when you notice the soil surface has dried out completely. Be exceptionally careful when weeding around your bush beans, practicing shallow cultivation to protect their weak, vulnerable root systems from accidental damage. These compact bushes grow beautifully in both ground beds and pots, provided they are placed in a location where they receive at least 8 hours of full sun daily. Remember to fertilize them at half the rate of other vegetables to keep them healthy without overstimulating leaf growth at the expense of pods. Your bush beans will be rapidly moving along and should be ready for a full harvest after about 50 to 60 days. Just like with pole beans, you must harvest your mature bush beans regularly to keep the plants actively producing new pods throughout the season. Snap varieties must be harvested while the pods are still highly tender before the seeds inside start to bulge and make the pod tough. Shell beans can be harvested green for immediate cooking or left to dry out completely until the leaves turn yellow and the pods split open naturally. Growing these crops becomes incredibly enjoyable, especially when you start to experiment with unique varieties that feature interesting shapes, vibrant colors, and rich, deep flavors. One of the most spectacular specialty varieties available is the winged bean, which features uniquely angled leaf-like wings running lengthwise down the entire body of the pod. This remarkable plant produces perfectly round, vibrant green seeds that are exceptionally high in protein, making them an incredible addition to any backyard edible homestead. The seeds are prepared and eaten much like traditional bush snap beans, and when the pods are mature and ready for harvest, they measure 6 to 9 inches long. The growth habit of the winged bean is very similar to an ordinary pole bean, featuring long leaves on vining stems that require a strong trellis. This legume is fantastic at adding nitrogen to the soil and can be grown during the winter in South Florida and during the fall in Central and North Florida. Next up on our specialty menu is edamame, which shares the exact same species name as standard soybeans but stands completely apart due to its significantly larger seeds and longer growth time. Edamame reaches its perfect harvest maturity when the pods are still bright green and plump, whereas standard soybeans are left on the plant to dry out completely. The seeds of edamame must be thoroughly cooked before eating, offering a delightful, slightly sweet taste that works beautifully in salads, soups, and fresh stir-fries. Valued worldwide for being incredibly high in protein and healthy omega-3 fatty acids, edamame can be planted as soon as all danger of frost have passed. Plant from September to April in South Florida, February to March or August to September in Central Florida, and March to April or August in North Florida, with harvest arriving in 11 to 17 weeks. Finally, we have the legendary yard-long beans, famous for producing mind-bogglingly long, slender pods that can reach anywhere from 2 to 4 feet in length. This vigorous climbing vine will completely wow your dinner guests, producing purple or black kidney-shaped seeds inside a delicious, entirely edible pod that requires no stringing. Yard-long beans can be planted from September to April in South Florida, February to August in Central Florida, and March to July in North Florida, always after frost dangers clear. Harvest them at an immature stage, about 10 to 13 weeks after sowing, when the pods are 10 to 12 inches long and packed with vitamins A and C. Plant all these incredible beans in full sun and well-drained soil, using mulch and compost to retain moisture, and you will enjoy a massive harvest. As we wrap up this comprehensive look at Florida bean gardening, whether you choose high-yielding pole beans, compact bush beans, or exotic varieties like edamame and yard-long beans, you are setting your garden up for incredible success. Incorporating these versatile nitrogen-fixing plants into your backyard landscape not only provides your kitchen with a continuous supply of fresh, nutrient-dense food, but it also actively improves your soil for future planting seasons. By following the Florida-friendly guidelines for proper solar exposure, careful watering, and timely harvesting, you can easily overcome our sandy soils and humid weather to achieve professional-grade results. There is truly nothing more satisfying than stepping into your own backyard and harvesting a basket full of colorful, crisp beans that you grew entirely from seed. Armed with the right varieties and techniques, you are now fully equipped to maximize your vertical space, enhance your foodscape, and enjoy the rich, delicious rewards of a thriving Florida garden. If you found this guide helpful and feel inspired to start planting your own massive bean harvest, please make sure to smash that like button right now to show your support. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on our weekly Florida gardening tips, tricks, and step-by-step crop tutorials. We would absolutely love to hear from you, so leave a comment below telling us which bean variety you are most excited to grow in your backyard this season, or share your own personal gardening success stories with the community.